I never thought my quiet life as a junior archivist would lead me here, standing on a wind-battered cliff, watching the sun bleed gold over the endless Mistlands, clutching a map older than any kingdom still standing. My name is Elric Fenlow, and until last month, I spent my days dusting forgotten scrolls in the Grand Library of Brant Hollow. But everything changed the day an old explorer named Garan Stormveil stumbled into the archives, his boots shredded, his eyes wild. He carried no pack, no supplies, only this map, its ink glimmering faintly like starlight. "They're gone," Garan whispered, dropping the map onto my desk. "All of them, the Seeker's expedition. Lost beyond the Veil of Thorns. Only shadows came back with me." Before I could ask more, the old man collapsed. The healer said his mind was fractured, half lost to whatever he saw out there. But I couldn't forget his words or the map's faint hum beneath my fingertips. It depicted a land no scholar dared chart, a labyrinth of ancient forests, floating ruins, and spiraling stone towers swallowed by vines. At its heart, a single name, Elander Spire, marked with a symbol of an open eye. The Seekers were legends, adventurers and scholars who vanished 5 years ago chasing mysteries of the old world. My mentor, Master Callan, was among them. When I looked at Garen's map, I knew this was my chance, not just to uncover what happened, but perhaps, to bring back what was lost. I wasn't foolish enough to go alone. First was Lyra Windmere, a cartographer whose maps were said to redraw themselves when storms shifted the land. She laughed when I showed her Garen's map, then promptly packed her gear, muttering, "Finally, a real mystery." Then came Cale Thornbrook, a scholar of forgotten mechanisms. Quiet and deliberate, Cale could coax secrets from gears and levers rusted for centuries. He had studied under Master Callan as well, perhaps that's why his normally steady hands trembled when he saw the map. Lastly, an unexpected companion joined us, Nim, a sprightly being of mist and shadow. Nim claimed to have followed Garan out of the Veil of Thorns, because the world needed to finish what it started. Lyra didn't trust him, Cale barely spoke to him. But I saw something familiar in Nim's curious gaze, a yearning to belong. Now, here we were, standing on the cliff where Garen's trail began, the Mistlands stretching endlessly ahead. Ruins pierced the horizon like broken teeth, and the air shimmered faintly, distorting shapes that didn't belong. I unrolled the map. The ink pulsed, and faint whispers curled at its edges, voices I couldn't understand yet somehow felt meant for me. Lyra adjusted her cloak and grinned. "Well, Elric, you wanted an adventure. Shall we follow the shadows of the Seekers?" I took a deep breath. Yes, let's bring their story back to light. And with that, we stepped beyond the last marked path, into a land where myths walked like men, and every shadow might hold an answer to the riddle of the vanished expedition. The Mistlands were nothing like I imagined. From the cliffs, they seemed a soft, silver sea. But once inside, the fog clung like a living thing, whispering faintly around our boots. Even Lyra's enchanted compass spun uselessly, as if the land refused to be measured. We walked for hours guided only by Garen's map, which glimmered faintly with each step, adjusting its lines as we moved. Lyra marveled at it. "It's not a map," she muttered, sketching quick notes in her journal. "It's a memory trying to remember itself." Nim flitted ahead, his misty form blending with the surroundings. "Seekers passed this way," he said in his sing-song voice. "Their dreams still echo." Cale knelt beside a moss-covered stone half buried in the earth. With careful hands, he brushed away the soil, revealing a carved sigil, a spiral eye, the same as on the map. "This is old-world craftsmanship," Cale said, running his fingers along the grooves. "But it's changed. Look, the stone is warm, as if it's still alive." Indeed, faint light pulsed beneath the carvings. When I touched it, whispers filled my mind, fragmented voices calling names, fragments of laughter, and one word repeated like a heartbeat, Elander. We pressed onward until the fog thinned slightly, revealing the first sign of the Seekers. Torn banners hung from skeletal trees, their colors faded but still showing the expedition's sigil, a lantern held aloft against darkness. Lyra crouched beside faint boot prints etched into hardened earth. 5 years old, yet still fresh, she whispered. The Mistlands preserve everything, or trap it. We made camp that night near a broken archway. Kale inspected fragments of ancient brass mechanisms scattered around it. These were part of a gate, he said. A passage into something larger. But the machinery has locked itself down. Lyra warmed her hands near our small flame. Do you think they made it through? I hesitated, staring into the mist beyond. The arch shadows moved there, not people, but memories of them. Faint silhouettes of adventurers with lanterns gliding silently through fog. I think, I said quietly, they're still here somehow. Maybe not alive, but their trail hasn't ended. Nim sat beside me, his glowing eyes fixed on the mist. The Seekers became part of this place, he murmured. To find them, you must understand why the Mistlands chose to keep them. His words sent a chill through me, yet there was no malice in them, only truth. The next morning, as we packed our gear, Lyra pointed at the map. A new line had appeared overnight, winding toward an unmarked ruin labeled only as the Hollow Watchtower. Kale tightened the straps on his satchel. If the map wants us to see it, then that's where we'll find our first real answer. We set out again, unaware that by nightfall we would uncover something left behind by the Seekers, something that had been waiting half a decade for someone brave, or foolish enough, to touch it. By midday, the fog thinned enough for us to glimpse jagged silhouettes rising ahead. At first, I thought they were stone cliffs, but as we drew closer, details emerged: crumbling walls, shattered windows, and a leaning spire barely standing against the wind. The Hollow Watchtower, Lyra whispered, her voice half swallowed by the mist. It looks like it hasn't seen life in centuries. Kale ran a hand over a fallen pillar, brushing away moss. Not just abandoned, he murmured. It feels suspended in time. Like it's waiting. Nim floated ahead, mist trailing like ribbons behind him. This place remembers the Seekers, he said softly. Shadows walk here still. As we approached, the tower loomed higher, its upper floors broken open to the gray sky. A carved spiral eye adorned the entrance, glowing faintly as if reacting to our presence. The air inside was cool and heavy, filled with the smell of rain-soaked stone and old iron. Lanterns up, Lyra said, pulling a softly glowing orb from her satchel. The light painted fractured murals on the walls, depictions of explorers carrying lanterns through misty forests, strange machines, and a great spire crowned with light. Kale crouched beside a rusted gear mechanism embedded in the floor. This is Seeker's work, he said, adjusting his spectacles. They tried to repair something here. Or activate it. I ran my fingers along the walls, tracing strange indentations. Maybe this wasn't just a watchtower. Maybe it was a signal post. Nim floated near a half-broken stairwell. Signals to guide the way deeper, or to warn of something ahead, he said, voice echoing slightly. We climbed carefully, every step groaning underfoot. As we reached the second floor, Lyra froze. Elric, she whispered, pointing at the corner. There, propped against the wall, was a weathered lantern. It glowed faintly blue despite being covered in dust. I knelt beside it, heart pounding, and saw an inscription scratched into its metal base: "For those who follow, let our light remain." Kale's voice shook slightly. Master Callan's handwriting. I swallowed hard, feeling the weight of his name. My mentor had stood here, left this behind. A message to anyone who dared continue. Lyra's gaze softened. They wanted to be found. I reached out, and the lantern flared brighter. The floor beneath us shuddered, and ancient gears groaned to life. Hidden panels slid open, revealing intricate brass levers and a glowing map etched into the stone wall. Lines traced through the Mistlands, converging on a central spire, the same marked Elander on Garen's map. Kale stepped closer, his fingers hovering over the levers. This is a guidance mechanism. If I can restore it fully, we'll know where the Seekers went next. Suddenly, a soft, hollow voice whispered through the chamber, "Not all who enter return unchanged." Lyra tightened her grip on the lantern. "Who's there?" No figure appeared, only shadows twisting along the far wall, faintly humanoid shapes carrying lanterns. Nim hovered near them, his own mist flickering. "Echoes," he murmured. "Memories of the Seekers, caught between this world and whatever they found." I stepped closer, heart hammering. "Master Callan?" I asked quietly. One of the shadows paused, turning toward me. For a heartbeat, I swore I saw his familiar stance, the tilt of his shoulders. Then the mist shifted, and he was gone. Kale's voice broke the silence. "If they're trapped here somehow, maybe Elander's spire holds the key to bringing them back." I clenched my fists, resolve hardening. "Then that's where we're going. Whatever it takes." As we left the watchtower, the ancient gears hummed softly behind us. The restored mechanism projected faint beams of light into the fog, guiding a path deeper into the Mistlands. Nim floated beside me, voice almost a whisper. "Every shadow we meet will ask who we truly are. Make sure you know your answer when the mist listens." And with that quiet warning hanging in the cold air, we pressed on toward the next ruin Garen's map revealed, a forgotten bridge said to lead into the heart of the Vale of Thorns, where the Seeker's true fate awaited. The beams from the hollow watchtower's restored mechanism led us through thicker mist than before. Trees twisted into spirals overhead, their bark glowing faintly with veins of pale light. Strange bird-like calls echoed in the distance, but none of us saw the creatures that made them. Lyra walked ahead, her enchanted compass flickering but steady. "According to Garen's map," she said, "the bridge should be near. If the Seekers made it across, they went deeper than anyone alive has." Kale's boots crunched softly over moss. "Or they didn't make it at all," he murmured, his voice edged with doubt. Nim drifted along at my side, his misty form thinning and thickening with every cool gust of wind. "Doubt has sharp claws," he said in that strange, sing-song tone of his. "Be careful it doesn't leave scars on your courage." By late afternoon, we found it, the Bridge of Whispers. Suspended high above a roaring chasm, it stretched impossibly long, disappearing into fog on both ends. Its planks were woven from vines hardened like stone, and luminous runes pulsed faintly along the railings. The air hummed softly, almost like voices speaking just out of earshot. I took a step closer, and the hum sharpened into faint words: "Return, or lose yourself forever." Lyra's eyes widened. "This isn't natural," she said, gripping her lantern. "It feels like the bridge is alive." Kale examined one of the rune-marked posts. "It's an ancient safety mechanism," he said finally. "Probably tests those who try to cross. The wrong intentions, and the bridge, won't hold." We stood there, unsure, until Nim floated forward. "Sometimes," he said softly, "you must let the bridge listen to your truth." Taking a deep breath, I stepped onto the first plank. It thrummed beneath my boots but didn't break. Lyra followed, then Kale, Nim drifting above us. With each step, whispers coiled around us, not malicious, but searching. They spoke to me: "Why do you follow shadows? Why do you seek the lost?" I gripped the rail, my heart pounding. "Because they deserve to be found," I whispered back. "And because someone I care for is among them." The whispers fell silent for a moment, then softened into a sound almost like approval. The bridge brightened faintly, its vines pulsing with warm light. Behind me, I heard Lyra's voice shaking as she answered her own whispers: "I follow because maps can't chart what really matters, and I want to know it anyway." Kale's voice was steadier: "I seek because knowledge unfinished feels like a wound that won't heal." Nim said nothing aloud, yet the bridge shimmered brighter as if his silent answer was heard. Halfway across, the mist thickened into a wall. Strange figures appeared within it, phantoms of the Seekers, their lanterns glowing blue. They moved in silence, crossing and recrossing the bridge as if trapped in endless journeys. I stopped, my throat tight. One phantom turned toward us, and for a heartbeat, I saw Master Callan's face again, sad, distant, yet aware. He lifted his lantern slightly, and a fragment of his voice reached me, "Elander, remember the light." Before I could speak, the mist swept him away. The whispers hushed, and the bridge ahead solidified. We stepped off together, trembling but safe. Behind us, the bridge's runes dimmed, fading into silence once more. On the other side, the Mistlands opened into an eerie clearing. Strange stone pillars circled a massive, broken machine, part tower, part mechanism, humming faintly with magic. Kale rushed forward, awestruck. "This is it," he breathed. "A portal device. The Seekers must have used it to reach deeper regions no normal path could lead to." Lyra scanned the area, finding scraps of expedition gear, journals, and lantern shards. They made it this far, but why leave everything behind? Nim floated silently to the center of the pillars. His glowing eyes turned to me. "The shadows grew heavier here," he said softly. "Something waits below. Not evil, but forgotten for so long it barely remembers its own name." Kale looked at us, his voice low but steady. "If we activate this device, we follow exactly where they went. There's no turning back." I stared at the humming machine, my mentor's distant voice echoing in my mind. Elander's spire lay ahead, hidden beyond portals and mist. And so, with trembling hands and a heart full of resolve, I stepped forward toward the ancient mechanism, knowing we were about to cross into a part of the world untouched by time, where the true fate of the Seekers, and perhaps our own, waited in the shadows. Kale's hands moved like water over the machine's levers and dials. Dust shimmered in the misty air as ancient brass gears creaked, reluctant but alive. Lyra set her lantern on a stone pedestal, its glow intertwining with the runes carved into the pillars. Nim hovered silently, mist curling tighter around his small form as though the device stirred unseen winds. "It remembers," he whispered. "It's been waiting for Seekers to return." Kale glanced at me. "When we start it, we can't be sure where it leads. The Seekers used this, and never came back." I swallowed hard. "That's why we're here. To follow their steps. To finish what they started." Lyra touched my shoulder gently, offering a faint, reassuring smile. "And to bring some of them back, if we can." Kale nodded and pulled the final lever. The ground trembled. The broken pillars flared with light, runes weaving luminous bridges of energy between them. The portal's core spiraled into being, a glowing whirlpool of silver and gold threads twisting together, humming like an ancient melody. Whispers rose again, softer this time, like 1,000 voices singing in harmony. A shadowy silhouette of a lantern-bearer appeared at the portal's edge. It lifted its lantern high, light spilling toward us like a path. "That's," Lyra breathed, her voice catching. "Master Callan," Kale whispered. His eyes shone with both awe and sorrow. I stepped forward, my chest tight. "We're coming," I said quietly, though I wasn't sure if Callan's echo could truly hear me. Nim floated beside me, his glow intensifying. "The Forgotten Realm remembers only those brave enough to step into its heart," he said softly. Together, we entered. For an instant, there was no up or down, no ground beneath my boots, only light and weightless drifting. My own memories flickered past, dusty library halls, late-night lessons with Callan, dreams of seeing the old world's wonders. Then other memories, not mine, surged, the Seekers laughing around a campfire, lanterns swinging as they descended ancient staircases, voices whispering promises to uncover forgotten truths. When my vision cleared, we stood in an impossible landscape. Massive roots of stone coiled like sleeping serpents, holding aloft floating ruins that shimmered like fractured mirrors. Waterfalls plunged upward into radiant clouds. Bridges of translucent crystal hung between suspended islands, glowing softly under a pale azure sky that pulsed like a heartbeat. "This isn't just a place," Lyra murmured, turning slowly to take it all in. "It's memory made solid." Kale knelt beside a huge stone gear half buried in moss, tracing its spiraling etchings. Ancient mechanisms, older than the Seekers, maybe older than any map. We followed a trail of glowing lanterns embedded in the floating pathways. Some were shattered, others still flickered faintly as if holding the last fragments of light from the vanished expedition. Nim drifted quietly, his mist shifting with unease. The Seekers came here, but not all of them left shadows behind. As we crossed a crystal bridge, we heard faint, melodic chimes echoing from above. A ghostly projection shimmered on the air, figures of the Seekers themselves moving through ruins, their conversations blurred but their determination clear. One figure separated from the group, a tall scholar with a lantern strapped to his pack. The image bent toward us briefly before vanishing. Kale's hands shook. That was him. Callan, still walking this realm. I stared into the pulsing sky, realization sinking in. This place doesn't kill. It keeps you wandering, part of its own memory. Lyra's grip on her lantern tightened. Then to save them, we need to understand what this realm is. Why it won't let them go. We pressed deeper, crossing floating platforms toward a towering structure ahead, an enormous clockwork tower with its hands frozen, its pendulum still. Around it swirled hundreds of glowing silhouettes, whispers cascading through the strange air. Nim's glowing eyes met mine. "The heart of the forgotten realm," he said softly. "Where time stopped, and the Seeker's story was trapped." I stepped forward, my pulse pounding. "Then this is where we begin to free it." The closer we came to the clockwork tower, the heavier the air felt. Lanterns embedded in the floating bridges dimmed, and even Nim's mist seemed sluggish. Lyra slowed beside me, her usual spark of excitement dulled. "It's as if the world's heartbeat has stopped here," she whispered. Kale's eyes were fixed on the tower's massive gears and motionless hands. "No mechanism this size should ever stop," he muttered. "Unless something, or someone, wanted time to hold still." We reached the base of the tower, its door a heavy slab of brass covered in engraved constellations. Kale traced the patterns with shaking fingers. These are the Seeker's marks. They tried to unlock this." I pressed my palm against the door. A pulse of warmth traveled through me, and faint voices swirled in the air, laughter, conversations, plans for discoveries yet unseen. "They're inside," I said softly. "I can feel them." Nim floated closer, his glowing eyes unblinking. The tower did not trap them out of malice. It held them because they feared losing what they sought. They wished to preserve their journey, and so they became part of its memory. We pushed open the brass door, and it groaned like thunder. Inside stretched a spiraling staircase around a vast pendulum suspended in midair, frozen as if caught between ticks. The walls shimmered with translucent figures, Seekers ascending and descending endlessly, their lanterns glowing softly, repeating fragments of their expedition forever. Lyra's breath caught. "It's like they're dreaming with their eyes open." Kale's voice trembled. "Callan, are you in here?" From above, a brighter glow descended. A familiar figure emerged, lantern held high. My mentor's features were blurred but unmistakable. "Elric," his echo said softly, voice resonating like a bell. "You followed my trail, why?" I stepped forward, my chest aching. "Because you never came back. Because knowledge unfinished feels like a wound. Because I couldn't let your story end in silence." Callan's shadow paused, and others gathered around him, faces of the lost Seekers I'd only known from old portraits. Nim drifted to the center of the tower, his mist curling around the frozen pendulum. "The tower can be awakened," he said. "But freeing them means letting go of the realm's memories. Their discoveries, their echoes, all will fade if they leave." Kale's hands tightened into fists. "But they'll be alive again?" Nim nodded. "Alive, and mortal once more." Lyra glanced at me, her voice quiet but firm. "Elric, this choice is yours. The tower listens to you." I stepped closer to the pendulum. The whispers of countless moments filled my mind, hidden ruins explored, ancient songs sung by campfires, laughter carried on misty winds. The Seekers had found wonders here no map could ever hold. But they had lost themselves to this endless preservation of adventure. I closed my eyes. "Better a fleeting light than an eternal shadow," I whispered. With both hands, I grasped the frozen pendulum and pulled. Light erupted through the tower, cascading like water. The translucent Seekers solidified, color flooding back into their forms. Callan's lantern flared golden as he descended, eyes wide with recognition. "Elric, you brought me back," he said, voice breaking with emotion. Time surged forward, the pendulum swinging in a grand arc. The tower's massive clock hands spun, gears clattering like thunder. Outside, the realm itself shifted, the floating ruins descended gently to solid ground, the pulsing sky softened into dawn hues. Nim floated higher, glowing brighter than ever. "The Forgotten Realm thanks you," he said softly. "Its memory can rest, because you chose to let it end." We stepped out into warm sunlight for the first time since entering the Mistlands. The portal shimmered ahead, ready to take us home. The Seekers gathered behind us, lanterns now warm and steady, real again. As Callan clasped my shoulder, pride shining in his eyes, I looked back at the realm we had freed. Shadows no longer wandered here, only peace remained. Lyra smiled, brushing tears from her cheeks. "We didn't just find them," she said. "We gave them back their story." And as we crossed the bridge of light leading home, I realized we had become something more than explorers. We were the Seekers now, carriers of memory, healers of forgotten places. And our own legend was only just beginning. The portal released us onto familiar cliffs overlooking Brant Hollow, where mist curled gently along the sea. But this time, we were not alone. The Seekers, once shadows, now walked beside us, real and whole. Callan breathed deeply, gazing at the horizon as if seeing it for the first time in an age. Other members of the vanished expedition wept openly, kneeling to touch earth and stone long forgotten. Lanterns glowed softly in their hands, symbols of journeys endured and reclaimed. Garran Stormvale, the old explorer who had started all of this, waited at the edge of the cliffs. When he saw the Seekers return, his lined face cracked into the broadest, most tearful grin I had ever seen. "I told them," he said, voice shaking, "I told them you'd find a way back." The grand library of Brant Hollow erupted into celebration as the Seekers entered its halls. Scholars flooded to hear their stories, children ran to see the heroes once thought lost to mist, and bells rang throughout the city. But amid the joy, a quiet mystery lingered. Garran beckoned me to a secluded alcove of the archives where dust lay untouched. There, beneath a locked glass case, rested a single ancient book bound in silver thread. "It appeared the day you vanished," Garran said softly. "The archivists couldn't open it, they said it was waiting for you." With trembling hands, I unlocked the case. The book's cover shimmered, and when I opened it, light poured out like a sunrise. Pages filled themselves with sketches of the Mistlands, the hollow watchtower, the floating realm, and the clockwork tower where time had stood still. Names of every Seeker, even Nim, glowed in golden ink. At the final page, one sentence appeared. "Every shadow you free lights the way for others." That night, lanterns floated into the sky above Brant Hollow, hundreds of them drifting like stars. The reunited Seekers lit theirs in silence, sending gratitude into the heavens. Lyra's lantern carried new maps sketched from memory, Kale's bore tiny brass gears salvaged from the Forgotten Realm. I held mine close. Callan stood beside me, his lantern steady and warm. "You've become more than my apprentice," he said quietly. "You've become what the Seekers were always meant to be, not just finders of relics, but menders of stories lost to time." Nim hovered near, brighter than ever. "And the Mistlands still whisper your name," he said. "For where there are forgotten shadows, there will always be seekers to guide them home." As dawn broke, I released my lantern. It rose higher than the rest, glowing brighter until it became indistinguishable from the morning sun. Watching it fade into the horizon, I knew this wasn't the end of our tale. Somewhere, beyond known maps, another shadow waited to be found. Another story waited to be restored. I turned to Lyra, Kale, Nim, Callan, and the others, my voice steady with newfound certainty. Our journey isn't over. The world is vast, and every corner hides wonders yet untold. We'll keep searching, not for glory, but for every lost voice still waiting in the dark. And so, with lanterns in hand and light in our hearts, we set forth again, seekers not of fortune, but of hope. The mist ahead shimmered, parting just enough to show a distant glimmer, like a door half open, waiting. And we walked toward it, knowing that even in the deepest shadow, adventure, and the promise of dawn, would always follow.